Joining me here in our visual radio studio to talk a little bit about construction and public works is the city's public works director, David Sypher. Good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
I have to tell you, David Sypher, there's a lot of orange barrels in our city these days, and I'm sure you haven't heard that just from me.
No, sir. In fact, it's a bittersweet thing, isn't it? You know that your tax dollars are being wisely spent when they're actually put into production. And at the same time, when you're trying to go to point A to B, it gets frustrating sometimes.
A little bit. I can't get to my burger place or my store or whatever I'm trying to get to. So, so what is going on? Obviously, your construction period is determined by the calendar because you can't do this in the middle of winter.
That is right. Of course, you know, when you're working with asphalt, it's 300 and some degrees. It's not actually pleasant to work with in the hot summer when on top of the heat of the day. But really, it's the only way you can do it, and that's what all the projects are planned on, is to be able to accommodate the very best job that can be done, which is in the warm weather.
Right, and so there's a number of projects going on simultaneously, and is that also part of the plan because you rent equipment and you can move it from project to project while it's here? Is that the idea too?
Same concept, but a lot of our equipment is either part of a contract from a contractor or our own equipment.
I see.
We usually don't rent much equipment, just like if we have a breakdown or something like that, we might.
Right, okay.
Really, the big thing right now is that we got a little behind on our street projects, and so council wanted to upgrade us from a satisfactory to a little better level of service in our streets, and so they allowed for 1/8% to be charged on our GRT, which has allowed us to spend approximately $6 million a year to kind of catch up on some of our street projects.
So getting behind was during the more leaner years, I guess, with revenue coming into the city, and that was why they kind of let the grades go from maybe good to not so good?
Yeah, that's right, and that's exactly what occurred, and that's exactly, when all of us in our own personal budgets we can relate.
Sure.
When things are tight, you tighten the belt and you let some things go a little longer than you would normally let them go. When that happens, of course, you play catch up.
Yeah, right. But if you remember back a couple of years, then I guess we can think that, there were probably years that there weren't as many orange barrels, and that was probably what was going on. We weren't fixing as many things that needed fixing.
Boy, you're hitting the nail right on the head. That's exactly what's going on.
And now it's time to pay the piper
in
more ways than one.
Yeah, but it's really good too. We've gotten a little some more better technologies, and when you get a larger bid, you get a little better scale on the economies of scale, and so.
So when you can say we've got 15 different projects in the city, can you bid on all 15? Is that what you're talking about?
Something like that. Yeah. In other words, instead of a mile, bring your equipment and do 5 miles.
Right.
And so that's, you're going to get a better deal when you do that. When you buy bulk, if you would.
Sure, exactly. That's true. Well, and the city, I don't know if folks realize that the city shares with the public a map of all the projects and where they are, and we've called it up here so folks who are watching us live this morning on our Facebook page and YouTube channel can see the map on the screen, and so this is a map, a visualization of all the ongoing projects today.
It is, and in fact, it's interactive, and it's really nice, Scott, because if you click on a map, you say, "Oh, gee, that part of town doesn't bother me, but this part I go through all the time, and I want to find out about it."
This is right outside my house. What's going on?
Exactly. So all you got to do is click on concerned about. It'll tell you the start date of the project, the estimated finish date of the project. It'll tell you who the contact person is if you need to talk about it. It'll tell you the cost of the project and a lot more other information as well. So
I thought they just gave out your phone number for everything, but they don't do that,
huh? Well, people are sure welcome to call me.
Of course, they always are. Now, there's a couple different colors on here. Does that mean anything different? If it's in green or if it's in yellow?
It does. And in fact, let me just say, so that people don't get confused, there's actually 2 maps. One just for the road projects, because we are doing so many different road projects. It would get so cluttered you couldn't see what you're doing. But we also have another map which entails mostly our water and sewer projects, and those are also listed, and those are also color-coded. So to talk about the map, the blue is for chip seal or crack sealing, and then our green is for mill and overlay, and the red, which is not yet on on this reconstruction restoration work that we do.
Blue. Am I colorblind, or
Well,
I see kind of a yellow and a green? Is that not?
No, you're looking at it correctly.
Okay.
So you're looking at a gold and a green, but on your map, I don't know why it's not coming up. Why the blue is not coming up?
Maybe I don't have that layer selected. Maybe on the map.
I'm not sure why you're not showing it, but
Okay.
there is a blue layer as well.
Okay. And if I click up here, I'm just trying to see. I've got upcoming projects and current projects is what it's showing me on
Okay.
the thing. But anyway, so look at it as an example that would be worth talking about this morning.
Well, why don't you click on maybe the... Well, no, you just choose one. It doesn't really matter. You choose one that would be important to you.
Okay, well, let's see. I know a lot of folks take Butler Avenue, and there's some construction around Butler here by by Navajo Street, and so let me try to get that one right here, right? Mojave Street from North Butler to North Watson, it says.
There you go.
And so I clicked on it, and it's telling me that it's going from July 29th through August 7th.
Yes.
So that's another couple of weeks, folks.
Yeah, that's right. So,
but you know.
So yeah, exactly. And you can see the construction hours too. If you say, well, if I get there at 7 o'clock, I'm not going to be.
I can get through
past
that.
it. Yeah,
that's true.
Without the construction barrels.
And the type of project is a mill and inlay, and is that
right.
another word for repaving? Or
yes. So what we would do in that case is we would. So the color code I'm reading from a CAD map. I apologize.
I see. Gotcha.
On yours, you don't see that until you click on this level of information.
Okay.
So when you've clicked on this, then you can see exactly what type of work that is.
Okay.
And asphalt work, I mean, it goes everything from crack sealing, chip sealing, milling, overlays, micropave. There's fog seal. I mean, there's lots of different treatments.
Sure.
In this case, this is the most common of all, which is a inlay or overlay. And what that means is if you mill it, and you've seen that before where the big milling machines come in and grind down the asphalt.
Right.
That's what this is. The mill and inlay instead of an overlay just means that you have taken it down and now you're bringing it back up.
Okay. All right. I'm clicking on a couple of the green ones here, and those are projects that are done.
Yes.
According to the map, that they have been recently completed. So it's
Yes.
really the kind of orange yellowish lines on our map that are ongoing right now today.
That's correct.
And again, this is kept fairly up to date.
It is.
Is it not?
It is. It's kept up to date. This is our first year of full operation on it, so there's still a few tiny glitches, but I'm pretty proud of so far, and they were very conscientious to keep it up to date.
Right. And again, this is part, I think, of the city's attempt, and rightfully so, to be transparent, let folks know what's going on. And so again, we found this through the city's website, fmtn.org, and we go to Public Works, I think. And
Yes, you go to Public Works and then enhancements.
Okay.
Enhancements. And then under the enhancements, like I said, the other map, we might show that to them too, if you like, Scott. If you
Yep,
can.
I'm getting there. Hold on.
Okay.
I got to click here. This one.
Coded a little different. It has green and gold, and then we will also have red on there occasionally.
Okay. And these are stars that we're going to show everybody.
That is right. It's not a stretch of roadway like the other ones were. This
Right.
is a project-specific location in general terms.
And so, give me one to click on here, David. Is there anything major
like I
going
say,
on?
Any one is good.
Here's one on Arrington and Schwartz, which is closed for sewer repair from the 15th through the 17th. So that's recently done.
Yes.
That was finished this week.
Yep. Or
And
it will be.
Let me
yes.
get one that's here. Oh, San Juan Boulevard. That's a favorite of a lot of folks, I'm afraid.
We've had a lot of work that we've done.
Yeah,
at San Juan
that poor
Boulevard.
street. Boy, I feel sorry for
man.
it.
Oh man!
But this is a water main replacement, so it's a pretty major
before
deal.
that we did sewer, and before that, yeah. And
Okay.
so there's been a lot of utility work done there. We did a whole remodel of San Juan Scott intersection in, 3 years ago.
Right. And so the one I clicked on hasn't even started yet. This is a water main replacement scheduled to start on September 2nd and go through October. So there's no end in sight yet.
And those are your gold. That's right.
For San Juan.
Those are your gold. Those are your
Yes.
gold projects.
They're
And then every once in a while you'll see an emergency one. The emergency ones don't usually last over 48 hours. It's when a leak has been discovered or something like that. And the emergency ones are in red, and you may not have any on the screen right now.
I don't see any
I'm
at
not
the
seeing
moment.
any.
Here's another on San Juan, and this is phase 1, which is ongoing until August 30th. So that's the one that people are dealing with today.
That's the one we're dealing with today.
Right.
That is correct.
And so with some of these projects, David Sypher, are these being paid for with dollars from the city budget? Is there grant money that comes in to replace some of these old infrastructure things, or how does that work?
Well, the water sewer ones are generally done with our R&R fund. That's the little charge you see on your utility bill for renewal and replacement.
So it's different from streets.
It's different from streets. However, what we try to do is coordinate so that we're not ripping up brand new streets to make water and sewer repairs. So when we come up with our project list for the year, the water sewer people sometimes will come and say, well, we're doing a water line next year, so we'll delay some road until we can there. Following the sewer and the water.
Right. And some people may be surprised to hear you say that, because I think they feel that there was just a lot of work done on a street and then it gets torn up. And I know with the best laid plans, that does happen sometimes.
That can happen. That can
Especially
happen.
in an emergency, I suppose.
Yes. And we really feel like we've made great strides in that arena, though. I think that we've been very successful trying to keep from cutting within a 5-year period, at least, of a new set of asphalt.
Right. And in my understanding, and I'm not a public works person, you are, but when you have a city like Farmington that had a lot of growth in a short amount of time, then you have a lot of pipes and a lot of infrastructure that is all dated around the same time that then wears out around the same amount of time. Is that what we find?
Yeah, you're right on once again. When we talk about some of our main replacements for our water lines right now, we're talking about 1950s cast iron lines, which, yes, a lot of our town was built in that period of time, our infrastructure. So
a lot of it's wearing out at the same time, is what you're saying.
That's right. That's right. And so we're making it last a little longer in some instances because you can't do it all at once, right? So you go through the science of it, you find out where the most leaks have occurred, and you start there.
Right.
And so those areas that some areas have a more acidic soil, a more basic soil, and either way, if you're getting a lot of deterioration to your pipe, then you replace those first.
Right. And the pipe that you replace it with, though, certainly isn't cast iron anymore.
No. Our pipe of choice right now for our water lines is PVC, and for our sewer line is HDPE, which is a high-density polyethylene.
Gotcha. And do those tend to wear better over time?
Yes.
Is that why it's popular?
Oh, absolutely. The HDPE pipe will last 150, 200 years, and really probably beyond that. And the PVC, something similar. I think they class it a 60-year pipe, but it's probably more like 150.
Gotcha. Yeah. And with these things, and I know it's always you're one of the toughest. Oops, someone's looking for you. See, even early in the morning, someone's trying to find him, but that's okay.
There we go. I fixed that.
Okay, no problem. I'm glad you don't have to run off right away. But when we're talking about public works and things like that, I know I think even I got a little sticker or hang tag on my door that said we were going to do work in the neighborhood. You may be without water for several hours. I know you try to get the word out to folks when a project is going on in the neighborhood.
We try to do it in at least two major ways. One, an actual door hanger for those who are immediately adjacent to a project. But what if you're just one street over and you don't get a door hanger? So we also put it, try to get it on message boards for the large projects.
Right.
And then on the website for all projects.
Gotcha. And of course, how long can you hope people can be without water? Is there a limit to how long you try to keep the water turned off in a neighborhood to get stuff done?
If we've got water out, we'll work a crew continuously until it's repaired. So those are almost always resolved within 24 hours. A few go 48 hours, and then there's a few major exceptions if it's just something that's really huge in scope.
Right. And of course, this year, it's a lot different story than last year when we talk about water in the city of Farmington. We had restrictions last year because of the drought conditions. This year, it seems like I can't imagine that the lakes aren't at 100%. Everything's got to be pretty topped off.
The lake is at 100%, and we still have pretty good flows in the river. And
yeah, even now, that's true.
Yeah.
I think there's still sno melting. So
and there is still some snow melting, and so that it's amazing. Usually we have all the snow melted, prior to June.
Right. This is a very unique year.
Very unique
That's
year.
for sure.
We're very blessed, I would say, Scott.
Definitely, that's true. And there's still talk at City Hall about maybe trying to increase capacity of Farmington Lake for drought years when we do run into another of these conditions again. I know that's an expensive project, and you may not have all the latest information about it.
It is an expensive project, and we are going to be doing an additional study we did a preliminary study just to see if we could raise the dam, and I think we came up with a 20-foot raise is feasible.
Okay.
And so we're doing a more in-depth study. It is a long-range.
Yeah, nothing that the city would do tomorrow or next year.
It's quite expensive, and it takes quite a bit of planning to do something like that. And
sure.
as you can imagine, anything to do with dams is quite a bit of bureaucracy as far as permitting.
That's true. But that is something the city is looking at.
Well, absolutely.
The other thing I saw was maybe a pipeline from Lake Nighthorse in Colorado, because the city owns some water rights to the water that's stored there, and in drought years, that could be another resource.
Well, it's even more than drought years, probably just emergency supplies.
If there was another problem with the Animus
yes,
quality,
any kind of water quality with the Animus, any kind, and just let's the fact is 150 years ago, when you and I are dead and in the grave,
right.
the reality is this area will continue to grow, and as it grows, there's higher demands for water. So for emergency supplies or otherwise, you need access to that water that's in Lake Nighthorse.
Right. But your 160-year-old water pipes will still be good.
Yep, that's
in 150 years, because you told me that's going to outlast us all, those pipes. So, but that's important. And I guess as we talk strategic planning, that's stuff that the city needs to be looking at for
that's right.
20 years down the road, 10 years down the road. And again, we have a very good water year this year, but not all years are like this year.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And when folks say, well, what are the chances of mine waste flowing into the Animus River? Well, we've already unfortunately seen that.
Yes, that's right.
Don't want that to happen again. Right. But if it does, you'd be prepared with a plan.
That's right.
And would know what to do.
We're also working on some other emergency access to San Juan River.
Right.
And that's, on an emergency basis, that's in place. But we want to make some more permanent situations, and then things that make sense not to be used just once every 20 years, but something we can use on a rotating basis, so when you do go to use it, it works.
Right. So when I turn on my tap in my house for water, I'm getting it out of obviously one of the water tanks around town that's then going to be treated and goes to my house, but then the supply comes out of Farmington Lake.
Most of it comes out of Farmington Lake. We also can pump it out of our pump station number 1, which is in the Willett ditch, and that can go directly to treatment plant 1.
I see.
So we want to have both alternatives perfected and ready to go, just to give the citizens the very best service and redundancy possible.
Gives you a backup, right?
It does.
And then from the lake, you have pumps from the Animus River that fill the lake. Is that where that's coming from? And then you have a couple pumps out of the San Juan, or an ability to pump out of the San Juan if you need to?
We have a ability to pump out of the San Juan, which pumps to the Willett ditch. So the Willett ditch is fed in both directions, one from the San Juan or from the Animus.
Okay.
And so that's kind of our swing pump station.
Gotcha.
And then we've got another intake that's about 11 miles above Aztec. That's the Farmer's Ditch, and it delivers. We're the very end at that ditch, irrigation ditch, that then delivers to the lake.
I see.
So we've got two pump stations that will deliver to the lake, and then one pump station that delivers to treatment plant 1.
Gotcha. And so when folks get concerned about people swimming in the lake, they're swimming in my drinking water. Mm-hmm. The lake is before all the treatment things that happen to your water when it gets to my house, right?
Exactly, and that's just the way it's done around the globe. I mean, swimming really doesn't cause us any concerns with our treatment abilities at all.
Right.
And it's we not only, what I love about any large body of water, it is so able to absorb so much just all by itself. One of the neat things about the Gold King mine spill was that we were able to turn off our pumps and not pass on the heavy metal pollution to our lake. But even if it did, there was yet another level of protection for our citizens, in that you have that giant body of water that will settle out those elements. and so it's like a giant settling basin on top of everything else. And then finally you go to the treatment,
right,
which is just a really nice layer of protection to have.
Sure. And I guess that is what happened at Lake Mead once all that gunk got to Lake Mead, which is an even larger body of water.
Right.
But there wasn't any way to take it out of the river before it got to its final destination, which was Lake Mead.
Right.
And so there it is.
Yep.
And that's what we have. We talked about water. I want to ask you a little bit about sewer and capacity and things like that. That's also an expensive job that the city does to provide those services for residents, and the city has a relatively new sewer plant.
Oh, we do. We've just added a few more facilities, moved from a chlorine disinfection to a UV disinfection system, which is really, really nice. It saves the ecosystem when you take it back to the Animus. You don't have to spend a lot of money dechlorinating before you send it back to the Animus.
Nice, right.
And so that's a really nice system. We have with just buying some equipment, we would be able to then upgrade to our next level. It's about another 1.5 million gallon capacity we could get. We're all ready to go because of this last upgrade. So we'll use it the way it is, of course, for a number of years until we need more capacity, and now we're ready to go for the next level as well.
I see. But I know that the city has been in contact with folks at the county about trying to maybe bring on some neighborhoods that are on septic, to maybe get some sewage lines put in to kind of fix some of those problems in the county.
Well, kind of the other way around. We all work together, but they have contacted us from time to time as different considerations, topics come up.
Right.
We'll review with them what the possibilities are, what the costs would be, and what the engineering would need to be. And so
if it's feasible, I get it.
Yeah, well,
right.
yeah, right.
Sure.
And so we've had those open communications from time to time.
Okay. I know the Kirtland line, that's one that's already in place, right?
Right,
And that was
right.
something that the city of Farmington extended and
That's right.
was able to
And then our
make
sewer
happen.
line goes all the way out to the casino,
Okay.
Sunray. So, right.
So that picks up Wild Horse Valley and Lee Acres and some of those neighborhoods, or is it just going to the casino?
I don't have the exact map in the top of my head. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. But it's that part of town, that part of
that's
the
true.
community.
That is
what,
correct.
What we're talking about,
Right.
And that keeps you busy. I know.
Oh yeah.
These-
It's been crazy.
All these things. So what's next? So we've got water and sewer and road projects, and is there anything big? Obviously, downtown is going to be a big deal for your
Downtown
department.
is just going to be awesome. That project is. We finally have gotten the stormwater system figured out and how we can deal with that, and had some real positive news on that. We'll be talking to council about maybe some additional funding for a stormwater system that will be a little more encompassing. We'll deal with a 100-year flood. We'll deal with the water that's coming off-site as well.
I see.
And so that's been encouraging to me.
Right. Because I know a lot of folks have seen the designs for the roundabouts and the other things and the single lanes and all the things that we can see, but there's a lot of stuff for this project that we can't see that's underground, right? With
That's
the
right.
water and sewer lines. And again, you don't want to dig it up once it's done, so you're trying to do it in order.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And so those items have been pretty much, we're at 100% plans now.
That's what I understand.
And then the end of August, we'll have the final storm portion of the plans done, and we'll be able to get moving on this project. So We're pretty excited. It's going to be a really nice improvement for our town.
Right. I think a lot of folks are looking forward to it. They're maybe not looking forward to the months of construction, but again, I think the city has gone and bent over backwards to talk to business owners downtown to try to figure out what they want, how quick, how slow, what will work best for them, and to kind of talk about how to still have access from the alley or from the other side streets. And that's one thing I think that's great about the design of downtown Farmington is if you close Main Street, you still have Broadway and Arrington to provide access to those Main Street businesses.
That is right. And so it's a nice design. I think it's been well thought out. I think it's a great enhancement for our whole area. I thought, Scott, we might also talk a little bit about helping people understand why it might take a little time to do a street project.
Sure.
And we've touched
You
on
just
all
dig
the
a hole.
elements.
I mean, what else is there?
That's right.
You just dig a hole.
There's a lot of coordination. Once you've assessed what streets need help, you don't usually just select whatever the worst street in town is. The worst street in town may be beyond help, and it might cost way too much to try to it's beyond trying to just put a patch on it. You
Right.
have to tear it out and start over.
Major reconstruction.
That's the major reconstruction. And so you've got to go out and assess where your streets are at. And you usually get the streets that are still good enough to repair, but not so far gone that they're going to take all your money just to fix one street instead of fixing 7 streets.
Right. Okay.
So once we've made those selections, then we got to go in and get all the utilities up to snuff, like we talked about, the sewer
Right.
and the water, and maybe sometimes the electrical systems need to be undergrounded,
Right.
or storm sewer or the regular sewer.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you get all that done, then you've got to start prepping the surface. You've got to get the crack sealing done. You've got to get the dig outs for major localized areas that are totally gone, so you have to dig them all out and patch those. You got to sweep it. You got to get the weed removal going. Then you got to get your signs up, your temporary traffic control plan going. You got to give the public notice. You've got to redo the signals just as soon as you get the asphalt down, because most of the controlling loops have been cut.
Right.
And so you're going to have to re-put those in, and then your pavement markings have to go down. So people get a little frustrated. Why isn't this done? I hope that kind of gives them a little
Sure.
touch that it's a big deal. There's a lot that has to go on.
Well, and the other part I would think that would be on your list too is you got to hope the weather cooperates. Do you not? Because
That's right.
If we got a monsoon storm or something, that you can't do the work.
We touched on that. The very first is that we would wait for the good weather to do our work when you're talking about asphalt. And yes, 2 things. Your equipment has a hard time holding up when it's working with 300-degree stuff.
Right. No kidding.
And so
Yeah.
there's a common thing is equipment breakdown, and a common thing is monsoon, because with summer weather comes monsoon. So you shut down during rainy weather, and you shut down when the machines go down. So sometimes people get a door hanger like you did,
Right, sure.
thinking, okay, it's going to be on Wednesday. Then a machine breaks down, or you get a monsoon, and now it's next Wednesday instead.
Right, but
that's really one of the big reasons we set up these maps, so the public can say, hey, where are they? And they can go and they can check and see, oh, okay, it's been delayed for rain.
Right. And you can kind of take a look. And again,
Sure.
this is available off of the city's website, everybody. When you go into Public Works and then into the enhancements section,
that is
there's
correct.
2 maps. One is road projects, and then this one that we're looking at with the stars on it is more water and sewer projects.
That's correct.
Is what we're talking about. My host, or my guest, I'm the host, but my guest is David Sypher. He is the city's Public Works Director, and we're talking a bit about some of the projects that are going on in the city these days. And you mentioned underground utilities, and I know 20th Street was a big project to kind of bury the power lines on that stretch of 20th Street, and that seems to have gone well, and I think you've got a lot of positive comments
It
from
has
that.
went well. We went through phase 1 and 2. There is a phase 3, and that'll
Okay.
be starting next spring.
Okay.
And we will be then going up to about Sunset, and that where does that leave off with? I want to say Knutson, but that's not quite right. But near
Okay.
near Knutson, going all the way up to Sunset.
Gotcha.
And
And
that'll be the 3rd and final phase.
and is there does the city want to do that elsewhere, or does it just depend? I know it always depends on money.
It really does. It's very expensive to go underground to underground power, and that was the most expensive part of this project. But remember, we got grants to redo the ADA sidewalks, the American with Disability Act, so that we'd have it to standards. And so we during that and undergrounding and putting new pavement on at the same time.
Right.
So all 3. And so, yes, it's an expensive project, kind of a showcase project to see, how affordable it was. We were sure learning a lot we're getting some lesson learned on doing all these elements all together. And
Right.
so it was something that council long ago authorized, and they wanted to do prototype and see how it goes.
Okay. And the benefits of having them underground, if they're more expensive and it's harder to do it, besides aesthetics, that I think it looks nicer without the wires. Is it easier to get to, I suppose? It's just climbing underground than climbing above the street on a basket.
We like to believe it's a little safer in that you're not up in the air. We like to believe that it's a little more accessible, and it's safer from the point of view of someone knocking down a line and having that hazard.
I see.
Type thing.
Not as many
it's more
outages, maybe,
protected.
if it's underground.
Right.
Gotcha.
he should get a better life out of it.
Okay, interesting. And so we may see more of this in the city in the future,
It's possible.
perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, David, I appreciate you coming in this morning. There's a lot of stars and lines on these maps that are keeping you busy this summer. I can see that.
Yes, and there'll be more coming.
Okay. And again, folks can go and check these out and just see when their neighborhood is on the list, I suppose.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
hear about it. But this is all part of, as you mentioned, maybe a little bit of catch up. So maybe we won't see as much over the next few years because the streets will all be at a higher level.
So we are under a 3-year program as approved by council to get the streets back up. So it will be commonplace for the next 2 years.
Okay.
We're going to do our best to try to get as much as we can completed next year, but
Gotcha.
But it will be commonplace for the next upcoming few years.
And it really is all about this regular maintenance, because if you try to defer it, then you run into a problem where, and in some towns, I know the pavement has gotten so bad it just looks like gravel, and,
Yes.
and it's not even pavement anymore.
Yeah.
The streets are now just kind of dirt again.
That's correct.
And if you don't keep up on it, that's what happens, is it not?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And then it costs 7 times as much to do a total redo instead of
Wow.
just a repair.
And that will hit your budget, not in a good way.
Oh, then you're in deep trouble.
Yeah, right. Then you're only talking about 1 mile rather than 7 miles.
That's right.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Understood. Well, thanks for coming in. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you, Scott.
Thank you. David Sypher. Yes, sir.
I would say if
Yeah.
anybody, these maps are not perfect yet, and if you have a question, please don't hesitate to call. And we're happy to give you any information that may not be on the map.
Okay. I appreciate that, and that's important to know. And again, there are phone numbers on each of these projects,
Absolutely.
as you mentioned, that folks can find, and they can call, or they can just call your number too, which I know
Absolutely.
is all over the website.
That's right.
All right. Lucky guy.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Have a good summer. David Sypher, my guest here on KSJE.